This podcast is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
Tom, we haven't talked a ton of baseball yet this morning, so we'll start that with you. One of your colleagues wrote a good piece about Will McIntyre's struggles, and I know Brady Tigert, Coach Van Horn came to his defense, but really the last 3, 4, 5 outings, Mac has not been what we've expected him to be this year. What have you taken away from one of Arkansas's, if not their strongest bullpen guy, and do you expect him to turn it around these coming weeks?
Good morning, y'all. Hey, yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. Baseball is so mental, and I just think that his cutter is not having the same action. This is just a guess. It's not breaking the way it had been earlier in the season, and teams are able to square up on the pitch better. And so the mechanics of pitching and repeating the motion is such an art, and I'm sure they've broken it down on all the technology they have. I was trying to think of the name of it, and it's just not coming to me. But the melody or harmony, something like Rhapsody.
Yeah.
One of those. Anyway, I'm sure they've broken that down, motion, millisecond by millisecond on release point and everything like that. And so he just needs to have a good outing or two and rediscover his pitch motion and release point and all those things because, early in the season, he was so dominant. People were saying, he's found a pitch much like Kevin Kopps did. I mean, that's the level of his dominance. His ERA was in the ones for quite a while, but his last several outings have not gone well. The good thing for Arkansas is they've got a bullpen that you can pick and choose on a given day. I mean, Faraday had a great performance the other day, another right-hander, and, Cooper Dossett has thrown well, and, I mean, you could go on and on about the arms that they could turn to, but, a veteran guy who's been on the mound at the College World Series more than once in pressure situations and super regionals and big games, you'd really like to have his services. But if he doesn't, turn it around, he's not going to be on the mound. He's not going to piggyback Hagen Smith on a Friday. I mean, he's got to be able to find it.
What about Kendall Diggs? And, Tom, I know he's nursing, I think it's a shoulder injury, but Dave got asked about him too. And I know he was dealing that when the slump kind of happened, but are you expecting him to get back into form, or is it going to take a few weeks before we see the Kendall Diggs we're used to?
Well, I mean, no one knows the answer to that. And it's just like with McIntyre. Baseball's so mental. The confidence game is big. And he is on an extended slump now that's lasted multiple weeks and hasn't affected his defense, which is good. But did something happen in his swing when his shoulder was hurting that he can't now get back to what he had been before? Because he's come up with the bases loaded I don't know how many times in the last month. And his numbers with the bases loaded were, I think, batting in the 400s. He just had an unbelievable average and production rate with the bases loaded before, and this year just hasn't been there for him. And, they could have made the complexion of games different in the last few weeks, even conference games, if he had delivered in the clutch. And he's in that situation where guys like McLaughlin and Aloy, Stovall are getting on ahead of him, and he's left them on the bases a good bit. So, he wants to, he's hurting, his teammates are propping him up, but it's just like McIntyre, man. He's just, at some point, he's going to have to start delivering because, without him, I don't see how they go deep into June unless he's back on in the game.
Tom Murphy with us on the McLarty-Daniel hotline. Hagen Smith becomes just the third Razorback to eclipse 300 strikeouts in a career. He's now second, trailing only to Nick Smith at 345. Does he catch Nick Smith? He's got 3 regular season starts. I don't know that he's guaranteed to start at the SEC tournament. Then you'd have one in the regional, and you assume the super regionals and maybe beyond. Can he catch 35 more strikeouts with what's still ahead with 3 weeks left in the regular season?
Right. As a prop bet, the odds would be in your favor. He's averaging about 6 innings an outing, and so 18 innings. And if you look up his strikeout rate, it's going to put him. It's going to put him right on it, probably on the third start. The last start of the regular season at A&M. And you're right. I wouldn't say he's guaranteed a start in Hoover, but you want to keep him on schedule, so he'll probably pitch in Hoover the first game, I would think. And so the odds are strongly in favor of him surpassing Nick Schmidt.
He had 11 strikeouts over this past weekend in their series against Florida. So I think we're just so used to records and we're so used to these elite performances. I don't think we really truly have found the gravity in what we're watching here with Hagen Smith.
Yeah, and I don't know. It feels like it was about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. We were asking Dave Van Horn about him, and he kind of mentioned he hopes the fans recognize this. And after his last start, he said when he's on, he's as good as anybody I've ever had. So, another lefty, Nick Schmidt. And Hagen is just such a humble guy. He doesn't say a whole lot. He just wants to win. And what a leader-type personality to have in your clubhouse. But the tough part being his last 2 starts have both been 2-1 games. He got the win in the first one, and he did not in the second against Florida. So they've got to this was a deal early in the season when they weren't scoring runs for him, and then they went through a stretch where they did. And, and there's a point where they're probably going to start stretching him out a little bit more to prepare him for, 105, 110 pitch outing if he needs to get through the 7th or get through the 8th inning of a big game down the road. So what a valuable piece to have leading off your pitching staff every weekend.
Particularly until Molina's back and solid, because McIntyre hasn't been the sharpest the last few outings either, and you don't need to eat into your long relief in game 1, knowing that you're not exactly solid behind that. That's the one thing that right now Arkansas needs to find a little more stability with.
Exactly.
Other than hitting, everybody talks about hitting, but it's not as solid pitching as people think.
Right, and you look at the course of a season, and here they are ranked number 2. I mean, they've been. If it wasn't for Texas A&M having an unbelievable season, they would have been 1 from week 3 or whatever it was up until now. But it's come with ups and downs. It's come with having to figure out different situations in the bullpen, and they've tinkered with their roster all season long. I think they've had 17 or 18 different starting lineups. Different guys have been hot. But yes, the pitching, the starting pitching behind Smith, Tigert has seemed to steady himself pretty well. But, who knows? I mean, if Molina, he can't continue to walk guys and give free bases, or who knows, they might find a spot for Bobby. And, I don't know what's happening with Colin Fisher. He's not starting tonight, but, he's a guy who could potentially start you a big postseason game.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.